Necati Arabacı, the Godfather of Cologne, should have vanished after Germany deported him in 2007. Instead, he rose inside the Hells Angels and became one of Europe's hardest men to hold. He was convicted, removed from the country, and banned for life. Yet nearly 2 decades later, he's living in Monaco, posting online, and walking free after almost every arrest. The promise of the justice system is simple. When a criminal empire collapses, the man behind it disappears. But the problem is that this one didn't. The empire kept growing, the warrants kept coming, and somehow, the man at the center became even harder to catch. So here's the mystery. How does someone wanted in 3 countries live like a celebrity? And what did he build that no police force has been able to break? To understand how he became untouchable, we need to go back to where it started. Origin, February 14th, 1972. Cologne, Germany. Coşkun Necati Arabacı was born to Turkish immigrants from Konya province. For the first 2 decades of his life, nothing indicates the role he will eventually play in Europe's underworld. To understand how he later built a network that multiple countries are still trying to dismantle, you have to understand the structure of Cologne in the 1990s. The city operated on 2 parallel economies. One was visible, business, tourism, and everyday commerce. The other operated after dark. When night fell, the Kölner Ringe transitioned into a concentrated nightlife zone. Clubs, bars, and the red light sector. Behind the visible activity was a cash-based economy with minimal oversight. In his early 20s, Arabaci ran a fruit and vegetable stand, a legitimate small business. But during the early 1990s, witnesses began seeing him regularly inside the city's nightclubs, not as a customer, more as someone familiar to the staff, particularly the bouncers. His involvement deepened quickly. In Cologne's nightlife economy, the key leverage point wasn't club ownership. It was security. Bouncers controlled entry, regulated disputes, monitored worker movement upstairs, and handled unregistered cash flow. Whoever directed the bouncers had operational influence over the entire venue. Arabaci understood that system early. He positioned himself around security personnel and the decision-making behind door operations. Over time, he became part of the internal structure that oversaw various aspects of nightlife management, not formally, but through presence, relationships, and coordination. By that time, the American outlaw biker club Hells Angels had already been established in Germany. Their presence wasn't just about motorcycles, it was about control of territory and the businesses tied to it. Despite this, the space was not completely closed to newcomers. Around the 1990s, Necati intersected with the existing influence of the Hells Angels. Their control over Cologne's nightlife and red light activities meant that anyone operating in those spaces was either aligned with them or operating under their observation. This shift marked the transition from a small business owner with peripheral access to nightlife operations to someone entering a structured criminal environment. And once he became part of that structure, the trajectory of his life changed completely. Rise to power. By the mid-1990s, Necati Arabacı formally entered the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club. In Germany during this period, the organization functioned as both a social structure and an enforcement mechanism within the nightlife and red light economy. Arabaci advanced quickly through the club's internal hierarchy. Membership also provided him with credibility among those who controlled or influenced nightclub operations across Cologne. During this time, Arabaci began assembling his own group of associates. This group, referred to as the Arabaci clan, consisted largely of bouncers, doormen, and enforcers connected to nightclubs on the Kölner Ringe. Their role extended beyond security. They monitored activity inside the clubs, established relationships with potential recruits, and facilitated movement within the red light system. Placement of associates at major club entrances gave Arabaci significant influence. By the late 1990s, authorities began noticing patterns connecting multiple brothels and nightclubs across North Rhine-Westphalia. Locations such as Babylon in Elsdorf, Viago in Leverkusen, and later establishments in Majorca, the Rhine-Ruhr region, Frankfurt, and Augsburg appeared to operate with similar personnel structures, financial arrangements, and methods of recruitment. Parallel to prostitution-related activities, investigators suspected involvement in narcotics trafficking, specifically heroin distribution routed into Europe. Although direct evidence remained limited, financial discrepancies and witness accounts suggested that drug proceeds significantly exceeded income from prostitution. Maintaining control required coercive measures. By 2001, multiple agencies, including Cologne police, state investigators, and federal authorities, were monitoring the network. They observed the concentration of power within the Hells Angels Cologne chapter and the rapid expansion of businesses connected to Arabaci's associates. Investigators noted patterns of disappearances, unexplained cash flow, and systematic violence surrounding these establishments. However, despite extensive surveillance, they lacked evidence clearly identifying the individual directing the network. That changed in 2002, when an internal operational error by one of Arabaci's associates provided investigators with a critical entry point. The resulting operation led to the arrest of Necati Arabacı and a significant number of individuals connected to him. Authorities aimed not only to detain him, but to dismantle the organizational structure built over the previous decade. The arrest, however, did not conclude his influence. What followed in the years after his incarceration would demonstrate how his network continued to function even when he was behind bars. Arrest and conviction. By the early 2000s, German authorities were conducting a long-term investigation into the criminal activities surrounding Cologne's nightlife and red light infrastructure. A turning point came when an individual within the network made an error that enabled police to establish direct links between Arabaci and several criminal operations. With this new information, authorities initiated a coordinated series of raids. These operations targeted locations in Cologne, Frankfurt, and the Ruhr region, involving brothels, businesses, safe houses, and administrative offices. The raids uncovered evidence consistent with organized trafficking and prostitution, business ledgers, transport routes, personnel assignments, and financial documents that did not align with any legitimate revenue structure. Taken together, these findings placed Necati Arabacı at the center of the network under investigation. Following the raids, authorities arrested Arabaci and charged him with leading a criminal organization, alleging that he oversaw the coordination and financial management of multiple interconnected operations. He was also charged with human trafficking and forced prostitution, based on evidence that individuals were being recruited, transported, and controlled within a network of brothels across several regions. Additional charges included extortion and assault, tied to reports and testimonies indicating that violence and intimidation were used to maintain control over personnel and competing establishments. Weapons-related violations were filed as well, after officers recovered firearms and other prohibited items linked to his associates and properties connected to the organization. Finally, investigators added financial and racketeering-related charges, citing shell companies, unexplained cash flow, and accounting discrepancies that pointed to systematic laundering of proceeds generated by the network. He was prosecuted in 2004, and during the proceedings, Arabaci entered a full confession. This allowed the court to bypass a lengthy trial, narrowed the scope of testimony, and effectively shielded unnamed associates from further scrutiny. He received a 9-year sentence and was transferred to Bochum prison. While incarcerated, investigators noticed indications that portions of his network continued to operate. The most visible example was the Colosseum brothel in Augsburg, which remained active despite the arrest of the individual believed to be its organizer. This suggested that Arabaci's influence extended beyond the prison walls. In 2005, the situation intensified. Law enforcement received intelligence that prosecutor Jürgen Botzum, who had overseen the case, was the target of a potential threat. Due to the severity of the information, investigators installed recording equipment in the prison's visitation area. The resulting audio appeared to reference a planned contract killing, allegedly involving a contact from Duisburg with Albanian affiliations. As a result of the recorded intelligence, Prosecutor Jürgen Botzum was placed under police protection, and Arabaci faced a new set of charges, this time under provisions that could lead to Sicherungsverwahrung, a form of indefinite detention used for offenders deemed permanently dangerous. At trial, the case encountered a significant procedural issue. The primary evidence consisted of transcripts translated from Turkish to German. Defense attorneys identified multiple translation errors that affected the meaning of the conversations. Given the transcript's accuracy, the court ruled the recordings inadmissible as reliable evidence. Arabaci was acquitted of the alleged murder-for-hire plot. The acquittal did not remove the security concerns surrounding Botzum. In 2007, after serving approximately one-third of his sentence, German authorities released Arabaci and deported him to Turkey, imposing a lifetime ban on re-entry. Legally, Germany regarded the case as resolved, operating under the assumption that removing him from the jurisdiction would prevent further influence over Cologne's criminal environment. The following years showed the opposite. Deportation did not diminish Arabaci's reach. Instead, it initiated a new phase in which his activities expanded beyond the scope of his original network in Cologne. Turkish expansion. Following his early release, Arabaci was deported to Turkey with a lifetime ban from re-entering Germany. German authorities expected his network to collapse without his presence. However, by 2008, new intelligence indicated that the structure he had built in Cologne had not dissolved. Brothels previously tied to his operations remained active. Financial patterns within the red light sector resembled those documented before his 2002 arrest. Individuals associated with the so-called Arabaci clan were identified not only in Cologne but also in Berlin, suggesting an expansion into additional jurisdictions. For German investigators, the primary obstacle was jurisdiction. Arabaci was now a Turkish national residing in Turkey, and Turkey does not extradite its own citizens. Even if German authorities believed he was coordinating activities from abroad, they had no practical legal means to compel his return or bring him under German criminal jurisdiction. Meanwhile, in Turkey, Arabaci began establishing a new base of operations. By 2008, he had opened several legitimate businesses in Çeşme, Bodrum, and Kuşadası, regions known for heavy tourism and significant seasonal cash flow. These enterprises created a formal economic footprint that could serve as both legitimate income and logistical support for other activities. Despite his relocation, Arabaci's name continued to surface in German investigations between 2008 and 2010. Financial patterns, personnel movements, and operational behavior suggested that the network he built prior to 2002 had not disbanded. Instead, it had adapted to function without his physical presence in Germany. A pivotal development occurred in 2010 when senior Hells Angels leaders held an international meeting in Izmir. Arabaci played a notable role in the gathering and soon after became the president of the Hells Angels Nomads Turkey chapter, a newly established unit with direct connections to chapters across Europe. This position offered two distinct advantages. It provided legal legitimacy within Turkey, where the chapter operated as a registered entity, and it allowed Arabaci to remain involved in Hells Angels coordination and decision-making across Europe, while staying beyond the reach of German jurisdiction. Shortly after, German outlets such as Focus and Der Spiegel reported a statement attributed to Arabaci, "Ich will die Macht am Rhein zurück," which translates to, "I want the power on the Rhine back." The quote suggested an intention to reassert influence in the region despite his absence. But then something happened in 2013 that made way for Arabaci. The European structure of the Hells Angels experienced disruption. Frank Hannebuth, considered one of the group's most influential leaders in Europe, was arrested in Spain during a large-scale operation. His detention created uncertainty around leadership roles within the organization. Arabaci was identified as a potential successor, citing his long-standing influence, cross-border connections, and the sustained activity of networks previously linked to him. Around the same period, authorities conducted a raid on a Hells Angels-linked business in Krefeld. Reports suggested that Arabaci, despite residing in Turkey, played a role in prompting the action. Analysts viewed this as a demonstration of his continued influence within the organization during a time when leadership structures in Europe were shifting. Intelligence from the era also referenced his contact with the United Tribunes, a group with known criminal associations across Europe. While the specifics of these communications were never publicly disclosed, investigators believed they related to coordination efforts or understandings designed to prevent interference between the organizations. By 2013, multiple investigative bodies across Europe believed Arabaci remained involved in a broad spectrum of activities. These included the operation of brothels in several European countries, participation in narcotics trafficking routes, and the movement of illicit funds through large-scale money laundering channels. He was also assessed as playing a role in inter-organizational coordination within the Hells Angels, linking different chapters and affiliated groups across borders. During this period, Arabaci remained in Turkey, which consistently declined all extradition requests made by foreign authorities. His position, however, was not without external pressure. In 2015, Spanish authorities issued an international arrest warrant accusing him of human trafficking and organized prostitution. The warrant did not affect him in Turkey, but it significantly limited his ability to travel. Any detention outside Turkish jurisdiction could have led to extradition to Spain. After the warrant was issued, Arabaci reduced his public visibility. Intelligence assessments, though limited, suggested that he maintained influence over elements of his network despite avoiding public attention. In the years that followed, sightings placed him in Monaco, where he appeared to live openly while traveling between Turkey, Serbia, and Slovakia, even as the Spanish warrant and other international alerts remained active. The Ghost Network. After 2010, investigators across Germany, Spain, and Turkey began noticing something unusual. Arabaci was gone from Cologne, gone from Europe, deported, supposedly finished. But the network he built didn't collapse. It didn't splinter. It didn't fight over territory like most criminal organizations do when the leader disappears. It kept running, smoothly, consistently, and predictably. Brothels linked to his old crew continued generating revenue. Security firms he once controlled kept rotating the same personnel. Money moved through the same financial corridors. Surveillance teams in Germany documented the same patterns of recruitment, transport, and enforcement, even though the man who built it all was 2,000 miles away. This raised a question that would haunt investigators for the next 15 years. How can you remove the head of an empire and the empire continues as if nothing changed? To understand what they were seeing, analysts from 3 countries began comparing notes. Victim statements from Cologne, financial ledgers seized in Augsburg, customs intelligence from Spain, and wiretap transcripts from Turkey all began pointing to the same conclusion. Arabaci hadn't built a traditional gang that relied on proximity and constant oversight. He had built something far more durable, a ghost network designed to be leaderless on paper, compartmentalized in practice, and capable of functioning independently even if every senior figure vanished. Investigators noticed the same names reappearing in different cities. The same companies dissolved and re-registered under slightly altered titles. The same logistics routes shifted just enough to avoid detection. Every time police shut down one piece, an identical replacement appeared in another jurisdiction. It was a structure engineered to survive raids, arrests, deportations, and even the loss of its founder. And it worked because of 3 things. International fugitive. By 2015, Spanish authorities had concluded a multi-year investigation into organized criminal activity involving brothels in Barcelona, Madrid, and several coastal regions. The investigation also identified narcotics distribution routes and extortion schemes tied to a broader network associated with the Hells Angels. Across surveillance summaries and witness interviews, one name appeared repeatedly: Necati Arabacı. As a result, Spain first issued a national arrest warrant and then a European arrest warrant, EAW, enforceable across all EU member states. The charges outlined in the warrant were extensive. Spanish prosecutors accused Arabaci of participating in a criminal organization, directing and profiting from human trafficking and prostitution operations, engaging in drug trafficking, and overseeing extortion activities linked to businesses across multiple cities. However, the warrant had a critical limitation. Arabaci was living in Turkey, and once again, the non-extradition rule benefited Arabaci. But the European arrest warrant allowed for immediate detention anywhere in the EU. It had no effect inside Turkey. Interpol notices and German investigative files added international pressure but could not override Turkey's legal position. Spanish investigators also connected operations in Malaga, Valencia, Murcia, and various coastal holiday zones to a single financial pattern, a shell company structure, nearly identical to the one German authorities uncovered in the early 2000s. Cross-border surveillance tied vehicles, personnel, and financial couriers to Turkey, suggesting that Arabaci's influence extended into Spain even after his deportation from Germany. Despite this, Turkish authorities continued to monitor Arabaci's activities. In June 2018, during a broader crackdown on organized crime, police detained him. He remained in custody for roughly 3 months before being released due to insufficient evidence. German media noted the release as another instance in a long-running pattern of arrests that did not lead to convictions. The pattern reappeared in a more serious case in 2019. On August 14th, Ahmet Atik, an ordinary man, was shot and killed in Bodrum in a targeted attack. After nearly a year of investigation, Turkish police arrested Arabaci and 2 associates in July 2020, alleging he had ordered the killing. The case was considered highly significant, as a confirmed link would have resulted in severe charges. Arabaci was held for 10 days during the initial judicial phase, but prosecutors were unable to produce evidence directly connecting him to the planning or authorization of the attack. He was released and later fully acquitted. Turkish outlets, including Daily Sabah, described Arabaci as a factional leader within the Hells Angels and noted ongoing efforts by multiple countries to detain him. Still, without admissible evidence and given Turkey's jurisdictional stance, none of the international warrants could be enforced while he remained within Turkish territory. Between 2015 and 2020, the same pattern repeated. Authorities detained or investigated him, collected preliminary evidence, failed to establish direct involvement, and ultimately released or acquitted him. This cycle underscored how procedural limitations and jurisdictional barriers consistently prevented long-term legal action. The main challenge for investigators across multiple jurisdictions was the structural distance between Arabaci and the individuals executing. Witnesses were unwilling to cooperate, communication channels were indirect, and the hierarchy of his network insulated senior figures from direct involvement. As a result, cases repeatedly failed to meet the evidentiary standards required for prosecution. Between 2020 and 2024, Arabaci reduced his public profile, yet he continued to coordinate with criminal networks across Europe. His primary legal vulnerability existed only when he traveled to countries where the European arrest warrant remained enforceable. Despite these risks, sightings in 2024 confirmed his presence in Monaco, a jurisdiction outside the EU arrest mechanism. He appeared to live openly and traveled frequently between Monaco, Turkey, Serbia, and Slovakia, encountering no interference from law enforcement. His visibility in Monaco drew media coverage and public attention, amplifying rather than diminishing his profile. This led investigators to a central question: how is an individual wanted under an EU-wide warrant and referenced in multiple organized crime investigations able to move so freely across European territory? The explanation was rooted not in concealment, but in jurisdictional fragmentation. Each country monitored different allegations under its own legal standards, and none possessed evidence strong enough or compatible enough to support a coordinated international response. As a result, no single jurisdiction could secure a lasting hold on him. Despite nearly 2 decades of pressure from multiple law enforcement agencies, he continued to maintain operational influence and public presence across several countries. High-profile connections. August 2023, Ankara. A large circumcision ceremony was held for the son of businessman Ayhan Bora Kaplan, drawing significant attention due to its scale, high-profile attendees, and visible police presence. Among those recorded entering the venue was Necati Arabacı, despite being the subject of an active EU-wide arrest warrant and previous detentions in Turkey. His attendance was public, unrestricted, and extensively documented. The event featured prominent performers such as Sibel Khan and Serkan Kaya, along with displays of luxury vehicles and elaborate staging. Turkish police monitored the entrance. In Turkey, presence at major family ceremonies is often used to map social and criminal networks, as such events frequently reveal affiliations and internal hierarchies. Several individuals known to law enforcement were present, including Selahattin Yılmaz, Menderes Kutlu, and Barış Çakıcı, nephew of convicted mob leader Alaaddin Çakıcı. Arabacı's role was clearly established. He served as kirve, a ceremonial sponsor, a position that signifies close association and elevated standing. Photographs and video footage showed him presenting a gold chain to Kaplan's son and participating in traditional festivities. 1 week later, the context shifted dramatically. On September 8, 2023, at Ankara's Esenboğa Airport, police detained Kaplan, his lawyer, a retired soldier, and several associates as they attempted to leave the country. Investigators alleged that Kaplan was leading an armed criminal organization with connections reaching into law enforcement, the judiciary, and political networks. He was later convicted of multiple charges, including torture and extortion, and sentenced to 68 years in prison. Following the arrest, authorities analyzed the recordings and photographs from the ceremony. Among those flagged for further questioning was Necati Arabacı. When questioned, Arabacı submitted a written statement acknowledging his attendance but minimizing his relationship with Kaplan. He described the invitation as social in nature and denied having close ties or knowledge of Kaplan's alleged criminal activities. In his written statement, Arabacı said that Kaplan had invited him to the ceremony and claimed they were not closely associated. He explained that they had met through mutual lawyers, had shared occasional meals in Çeşme and Izmir, and that he did not view Kaplan as a criminal figure. This account contrasted sharply with the event documentation, which showed Arabacı serving as kirve, presenting ceremonial gifts and participating prominently in the celebration, roles that typically indicate a close relationship. Investigators also noted his declared monthly income of $90,000, reportedly derived from entertainment businesses in tourist areas. The figure raised questions, as there were no publicly verifiable business operations matching that level of revenue. Independent reporting by investigative journalist Çevheri Güven highlighted broader connections between Kaplan, political figures, and various underworld actors. Within these analyses, Arabacı appeared as part of the wider network of individuals present at the 2023 ceremony. Despite the visibility generated by the investigation, Arabacı did not reduce his public profile. By 2024, he was openly photographed and recorded in Monaco, documenting his travels and lifestyle on social media platforms. This shift, from maintaining a low presence to publicly displaying his movements, marked a notable change in his behavior and further intensified questions about the scope of his influence, the protections he appeared to benefit from, and the degree of freedom he exercised despite long-standing international warrants. The social media phenomenon. By 2024, Necati Arabacı remained the subject of an active EU-wide arrest warrant, with continued interest from Spanish, German, and Interpol authorities. Despite this status, he appeared publicly in Monaco, one of Europe's most closely monitored jurisdictions. Shortly afterward, videos of Arabacı began circulating on TikTok. They showed him stepping out of luxury vehicles, dining at high-end restaurants, and walking openly through Monte Carlo. These recordings were not clandestine. Individuals approached him voluntarily, filmed him, and asked for photos. One video surpassed 15 million views, accompanied by comments framing him as a public figure rather than a fugitive. Simultaneously, his Instagram account, Necati.Arabacı81, displayed regular travel between Monaco, Turkey, Switzerland, Dubai, and other locations. All posts were public, despite the outstanding warrants. Social media analysts noted that platforms reward displays of wealth and status, and that certain online subcultures treat mafia aesthetics as aspirational. As a result, Arabaci's digital visibility expanded rapidly, often overshadowing the criminal allegations connected to his name. This dynamic underscored a structural shift. Do not align with modern social media ecosystems. Arabaci's case demonstrated how a wanted individual could build a highly visible online profile while remaining unreachable to the jurisdictions seeking him. Yet this visibility did not eliminate legal exposure. In September 2025, an unexpected development in Slovakia showed that even high-profile individuals operating openly can still be intercepted, just not always where they anticipate. Recent arrests and current status. September 9, 2025, Nitra, Slovakia. Slovak police detained Necati Arabacı at a restaurant where he was dining with his family, acting on an alert triggered by German authorities. Armed officers carried out the operation without resistance. Within 6 hours, however, authorities released him. Under Slovak law, Arabaci could not be detained for extradition because his spouse holds EU citizenship, limiting the legal grounds for removal. Officials issued a formal order requiring him to leave the country within 30 days. He departed shortly afterward, first traveling to Belgrade, Serbia, before continuing on. October 5, 2025, Izmir Airport, Turkey. Upon his return to Turkey, Arabaci was arrested by the Organized Crime Unit on charges of leading a criminal organization and aggravated extortion, his third arrest in Turkey since 2018. During the initial judicial review, a lower court approved his release under house arrest with electronic monitoring, concluding that full detention was unnecessary. Prosecutors immediately objected, citing the active international warrants, his recent travel pattern, and the clear risk of flight. The objection moved quickly. A higher court reviewed the file and overturned the release order. At the time the decision was made, Arabaci was already in the administrative area preparing for discharge. While officers processed his release paperwork, the updated directive arrived. The procedure was halted, and he was taken back into custody without ever leaving the facility. As of November 2025, Arabaci remains detained in Turkey, awaiting trial on organized crime charges. Because he is a Turkish citizen, foreign governments cannot compel his extradition or assume jurisdiction over him. Recent events reflect a long-standing pattern seen since the early 2000s. Arrest, limited detention, legal challenge, and release. Whether the current proceedings will break this pattern remains uncertain. Turkish authorities have taken a more assertive approach in this case, but no outcome has been reached. Necati Arabacı isn't just a criminal figure. He's the proof that systems can fail for decades. As he sits in a Turkish prison awaiting trial, the real question isn't if he'll walk free. If you want to know what happens inside the outlaw clubs that shaped men like him, click on the next video to see how that world really works.